What's going on, guys? Welcome back to our channel. I'm C.
I'm P.
And today we're going to be reacting to deGrasse Tyson thoughts on I cannot say that word.
Transgenderism.
There it goes. What she said.
On
Yeah,
the
and
Ben Shapiro
it's from
show.
the Ben Shapiro show, and they they do it. Ben Shapiro has a show where he talks to people one-to-one about certain topics. This time he's deGrasse Tyson, and you know who he is, right? Push, you know who he is.
Yeah.
No, he's like a guy who, he's a scientist. He's a physicist. I think he's an astrophysicist. He's been around.
The
You've seen him
name
before.
sounds familiar, but
You've
for
seen him
some
before.
reason I thought he was like.
He studies the universe and stuff like that.
Wow.
He's a very popular dude. So we're gonna see what he thinks about transgenderism. You know Shapiro with the facts. Don't care about your feelings.
Yeah.
We're gonna see how this
No
interview is gonna
feelings
go.
here.
Just facts. No copy, just facts.
As always, let us know what you think about Ben Shapiro's topic in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, ring that bell so you get notified for our upcoming videos. Remember, we're trying to get the 10,000 subscribers. We need your help to get there, so hit that subscribe button.
Let's keep going. Let's start. You good?
See.
Alright, you Spanish now? Damn.
Seems like the left is militating against the advent of science. One of those areas is the area of transgenderism. The argument that is typically made by gender theorists is that gender is entirely separate from sex. You've seen the argument made that it makes no difference on average if men are stronger than women are, and that if we were to allow transgender women to compete with non-transgender women, then this would somehow not disadvantage biological women. And this seems to me absolutely ascientific, that if we're actually going to have a discussion about gender and sex, that should be based in data, which suggests that mammals are in fact binary in terms of their sex, unless you have intersex birth defects typically, or genetic defects.
I'm happy to opine
You know who it is?
on this.
I think you're a totally different person, though.
This only matters because today we segregate nearly all sports by gender. Otherwise, why do you even give a shit? what someone identifies with? That we live in a free country, and with consenting adults and people free expression of who and what they are.
I mean, on adult level, I agree with you. I think it does matter.
Before Ben Shapiro was good with the facts, I will give one scenario I can think of that it matters. For example, when somebody gets injured, based on the gender you are, they have different procedures. First thing, like a woman, for example, let's say a woman is hurt in the abdomen or whatever. You gotta make sure you don't mess up the birth canal and certain things that are gonna allow her to give birth. For men, you gotta worry about that. You know what I mean? So that's just one reason. I feel like there's multiple other reasons in the medical field that it matters the gender you are. The doctors will do different procedures depending on what gender you are. You know what I mean? That in itself is one thing, and there's a lot of reasons just in the medical field that it matters. So I think him dismissing that if it's not for sports, it doesn't matter. I think that's a little, He's a very smart dude, but I think that's generalizing too much.
I think he's not thinking in depth. I think he's just thinking of the sports aspect of it. Why people are caring so much because of the sports.
I think it's the main thing that's out there.
Yeah, I think that's what he's thinking of. I don't think he's going as in depth as maybe you and me are. Because he's a smart dude. I'm sure if
he's an astrophysicist.
I'm sure if he really was thinking about it more than what the main topic is, he probably.
Also, what I would say is, he's a very famous scientist. Let's say he goes against the media. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people are scared of getting canceled because he's getting movie. I don't know about movie deals, but he's getting certain deals. So if he goes against that, against the left, they might not allow him to be in certain things. You know what I mean? So I think that also you gotta think about that also. Let's say Ben Shapiro's facts.
And people free expression of who and what they are.
I mean, on an adult level, I agree with you. I think it does matter what you teach
That's what
children.
I'm saying. And so there's the matrix of what you are biologically, how you express yourself, who you choose as a sexual partner. If we actually live in a free country, as we tell ourselves, people's freedom to behave in any of those ways should not concern you at all. Nor are they requiring that you behave that way. Okay?
Well,
this is for their own freedoms, because we live in a free country. Now, what is unresolved here is, what do you do with sports? It's unresolved. And I've followed that closely, and I don't see any meaningful solutions to come down off of that. We know that hormones manifest differently in different people, and just the whole thing with steroids. Steroids are hormones, right? And we rallied against steroids in professional sports because it gives you an undue advantage. So I've tried to think of what the future of sports would be in the world of a gender spectrum. And it may be, you don't specify whether it's a male or female sport. You just take measurements of what your hormonal balances are. And so you compete based on your hormones. I mean, this is thought I had. I mean, I don't know.
I get where it's going with this, but I feel like that's gonna be like overly complicated. You know what I mean?
Like you would need to like.
And some people, I think hormones. What I've heard, guys, I'm not a scientist, but I think hormones is not the only thing that that give men an advantage. You know what I mean? First of all, men have bigger lungs. Mm-hmm. They have broader shoulders. They're usually taller. You know what I mean? There's like. I think they have stronger bones, whatever. Bone density is more. You know, I think it's more than hormones. Mm. You know what I mean? So I think it's more than that. And I feel like calculating everybody's hormones, trying to figure out what hormones is which, what hormones is. I feel like that's overly complicated. You know what I mean?
I don't know where it's going to land.
The WNBA won't be in business for very long if that's the case.
It would just be you'd have to find some way to compete people against each other if you still care that sports is an interesting activity.
I guess the area where it does come up in a non-sports area.
Yeah, tell me, 'cause I don't know.
So it would be, you talk in your book about the education of children and teaching children about science. And right now, children are being taught about the quote-unquote gender spectrum, which is not scientifically based. That is a theory-based idea.
No, wait, hold on. People express themselves on a spectrum. So you learn that.
That's a social point, not a scientific point. Meaning we express ourselves
hold on.
based in different languages. Is that something you teach in science class, or is that something that you teach when you're teaching language?
So whether the fact that people...
I'm sorry, guys, I'm after, but I think he's trying to be real careful here about what he says so he doesn't get cancelled. I don't know, it's just how it looks to me. You know what I mean? But that's
but like when people do that, I always question, is this their real thoughts or are these their censored thoughts?
Exactly.
Because they're afraid of losing something.
Yeah, because in the past, I didn't feel this way in the past. I might be wrong about him. Maybe he's trying to think his thoughts too. But I feel like right now, if you like are famous, I feel like
you don't really know if they're actually speaking their truth because you can't blame them because their livelihood is on the line.
Exactly.
So if they try to speak the truth and you don't like what their truth is, you're taking away their livelihood and you're taking away pretty much their children's livelihood. So, which isn't fair to them.
And I'm not gonna say, if I was famous, I would just tell my truth all the time. I'm not gonna say that.
It's more complicated than that because you sit here and you quote freedom. I was talking first.
Go ahead.
You sit here and you quote freedom, and you say that I should be able to freely express myself and all this stuff. But then if somebody is expressing themselves and you don't like what they're saying, then it's a different story. You get all mad and defensive and you cancel them and all this stuff. So
I feel like the truth matters, but we shouldn't be quick to judge because if you had a choice of like losing 20 million, $40 million and you know, and telling the truth. Of course, the ethical, you know, the right thing to do, I guess ethics-wise, is to tell the truth. But at the end of the day, we are humans, and we make mistakes, and we have biases. We love money. So I'm not gonna say, oh, if I was in this position, I would just pick truth instead of money. I don't think anybody should, you know, say that either. You know what I mean? I understand what they're going through. How, you know, do I destroy my livelihood just to, you know, say something that in the end of the day wouldn't even matter? You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm.
But I don't think it's just
right.
the money aspect, like the.
It's the example I was giving.
Yeah, I think it's more. Yeah, it's because of the money, but it's not because. Oh, I'm choosing $20,000 over the truth. It's I'm choosing my livelihood, my family, my career over the truth. Because this is the thing, when you take the money away, these are the things that are going to fall because of the fact that you took that money away. And a lot of people don't realize that. You think, oh, $20,000 is nothing to...
I'll say millions, but...
Yeah, whatever. is nothing to a famous person. But it kind of is, because you have to think about the lifestyle they're living in. Their house costs a certain amount every month. Their cars, their children's expenses, their wives' expenses. Most of these people's wives or husbands aren't working if the other one's famous. So you really need to think of their livelihood before you go and say, oh, it doesn't matter if they lose $20 million or they lose a sponsor.
Also, it depends how famous the person is. Depending on how famous you are, 20 million is a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, and another thing I was saying is also you can lose friends and family members because if you know your mom had gone through this. If you have different political ideas, political things, families have separated or not talked to each other because of different political beliefs. And you think like, am I willing to lose my family because I say up 2 minutes conversation on the internet? You know what I mean? So I think it's very complicated. I don't think we should demonize everybody who you know doesn't tell the whole truth. But it's also, I understand that telling the truth is the right thing to do. Does that make sense? Let's go.
Languages, is that something you teach in science class, or is that something that you teach when you're teaching language?
So whether the fact that people want to express themselves on a spectrum, on a gender spectrum, whether that fact is something you want to put in a sociology class or in a science class, maybe that remains to be determined. But it is a real fact about real society.
Well, of course, nobody's denying that people identify how they want to identify.
So
the question is, what is the relationship of that to biology? Meaning that the argument is made that trans women are women, for example. And what that seems to mean is that trans women are identical to women. Now, if people want to say trans women are not biological women, obviously that is the case. But people don't seem to want to say that, although that is obviously scientifically true. Trans women are not biological women. Biological women are biological women.
But where are you going with this? What are you trying to accomplish by asking yourself, is it science or is it not science?
Real quick, see how he doesn't want to say it? He doesn't want to say it because if saying it is, you know, is way worse than being like, we don't know yet. Like I said with the previous thing, we don't know if it's going to be science or sociology. We don't know yet. We'll still figure that out. We don't really. It's the tactic of not choosing a side, staying in the middle. You know what I mean? I think that's what it's doing.
Because he wants the transgender community not to crush him, but he also doesn't want his science community to be like...
Exactly, like, dude, like, so he's staying in the middle.
By asking yourself, is it science or is it not science? It's people in society.
But this is a perfect example of an area where suddenly it doesn't matter to say things that are just true. Like, why is it bad or wrong to point out?
I have another way to approach this. I care what is objectively true in the world as a scientist. But let me not say even as a scientist. I just simply care what is objectively true. And science happens to be a pretty potent path to invoke, to find out what is true. And so if people express themselves on a gender spectrum, and that is an actual thing in an actual society, if we have not fully explained that scientifically, that's an interesting frontier to study. If you want to say it's only sociological, then it's the purview of the social sciences. I don't care who studies it. It's an interesting fact about society that's worth learning about. To fight someone and say, it's not biological, it's just your this, it's real and it's there.
Well,
because it's real because it manifests.
But it is real because it manifests. But the question of how to classify manifestation is a scientific question, meaning that, for example, there was a woman over at Brown University. She came out with a study that suggested that there was a phenomenon called rapid onset gender dysphoria, in which a member of a particular group would suffer from gender dysphoria, and this person's immediate peer group would suddenly have an onset of gender dysphoria. This paper was so controversial that Brown tried to pull it, and then was forced to reassign it later. You see this sort of treatment.
That's a different question. What you're asking now is, are there some topics that should not be studied scientifically?
Right.
And is there some taboo? And Sam Harris speaks a lot about this.
Yes.
And I think the concern is, if you study some topic that's a hot button topic and you bring scientific methods and tools to it,
Learn a language with clickable subtitles. Choose from hundreds of foreign TV shows.
We don't trust, I'm interpreting here, I think we as a society don't trust that people in charge in a free country won't try to legislate something that will constrict people's freedoms in the face of that information. I think that's the fear.
Well, isn't that...
It's a fear.
I mean, and isn't that...
We don't trust our own ability to govern ourselves in the face of what could be some information relative to other kinds of information.
Isn't that a bit of a problem?
Yes. I mean, yeah. Yeah, it's not. It means it's not a free society. It's not a society of free inquiry, which I think you need ultimately. But yeah.
My general take on.
I think he's saying yes, it might be scientifically accurate that they're not biological women, right? But he doesn't want people. He doesn't want them to stop giving people freedom to express themselves how they want to be expressed. That's what I got from that.
He doesn't want the government to take that and be like, okay, we can make a law now saying this because this is a scientific fact. Which I get, and it could possibly happen, especially in our government, because, hey, worse shit has happened.
It's funny because that's what the other side argues too. It's like you're forcing me to call you something that's not even fact.
See, the thing...
You know what I mean? And the government is legislating that you have to call the people.
I was just about to say.
So it's like, it's the same argument on both sides, I would say. Maybe not, maybe his argument, I guess. The same argument that
well, he's saying the science argument, like the science aspect of it, why they're not pushing to make it state that is because that he believes that the scientists fear that this is what the government will do. And then the opposite side is fearing that the government is going to force us of our freedom of speech, to force us to change words for a select group of people's comfort.
Exactly.
Which, like we talked about in a previous video, to me personally, there's a difference between forcing me to do something by law and you as an individual asking me to do something. Like if you were asking me to dress you in a certain way, I will do it 100%. But if you're going to force me by law to do something in a certain way, that's where I'm like,
I think ironically that's what his argument is too. I think that I wanted that both sides are like all afraid of the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because that's the way our government operates, to say the truth.
Saying government's not always perfect at legislating things.
Yeah.
So people are afraid that they're gonna get it wrong.
All of this stuff from climate change.
Ultimately, but yeah.
My general take on all of this stuff, from climate change to gender dysphoria to all of these issues, is bring out the science and then let's hash it out. I think that the problem I'm seeing on a lot of sides
is... What is your motivation?
Why?
Right?
Why does that matter?
It matters because if you have political power, you could end up creating legislation that subtracts freedoms from people who previously were enjoying the same freedoms as you. The history of that exercise
Then make a better argument.
doesn't end well.
Well, but the history of which exercise? Bring out all the science and let's hash it out.
I'm saying if you bring out all the science and the politicians hash it out, the history of that exercise is a recipe for disaster if it involves discoveries that put people's freedom as defined in our Constitution at risk.
But now you're arguing for limitations on areas of particular study.
No, I'm arguing on we need a way to shield, we need a way to protect people's freedoms in the face of whatever gets discovered scientifically.
So
I'll give it.
I agree. I think that's what the Constitution is for, is to guard rights from.
But we're always fighting people who want rights are always fighting others who are saying they don't get the rights from the Constitution. This is a daily challenge on the progressive left. It is a daily challenge, right? Here's an example. I forgot how I ended up getting this phone call. It was some magazine that serves the gay community. And they want, I remember why, because they wanted my opinion on, they wanted my opinion about whether being gay was biological or mental.
Right, there's that new study that came out, this vast
or
study.
Psychological.
Right,
okay?
Right.
And I said, I don't care which it is.
Guys, I might be wrong about this. I might be, just taking these things out of context, whatever. But I feel like he didn't take that study on. Like he's saying, I'm pretty sure he's gonna say, I don't care, so I'm not gonna do that study. I think he was afraid that the what he find might not be what the people want to hear. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's saying, oh, what if I find that it's psychological? Mm-hmm. If I publish that, then I'm gonna be labeled as like a transphobic or not transphobic, as homophobic or whatever, right? I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying he's afraid if that's what it is, he's gonna be labeled as that. Well, I think that's why he's not taking on that study.
By saying that he received a phone call from a gay magazine, mm-hmm. proves that people from that community reach out for him for certain things. Mm-hmm. So he has connections with people in that mm-hmm. community, which obviously help him in his lifestyle. Also, he's a scientist, so he's part of the scientist community. So going back to what we said before, mm-hmm. he has to play neutral ground. Because as a scientist, he can't argue science. He can't say falsehood to science. Mm-hmm. If science is showing this, that he has to go with science because he's a scientist. But as a person, he has people who believe in this that fund him in certain ways. So he can't argue against them because then there goes his funding. So he's sticking to the middle ground because of both parties.
And it might not only be about money. Maybe it's about, they're my friends. I don't want to, lose them.
That's what I mean, like funding my lifestyle. It doesn't have to be actual money. It's just...
Yeah, I'm saying like doesn't matter what it is. You don't want to injure that part.
Yes.
Of them.
Don't care which it is. Find out what it is, fine. But the answer to that question should have no consequence on legislations or laws. Because, for example, suppose it said it's purely biological, okay? Then you say, oh, that explains it. Suppose it says it's purely psychological. What are you going to do now? You say, well, now you're going to go to the reorientation camps or whatever those are called, where they realign you because they say it's psychological rather than biological. All of a sudden, people start behaving in ways in society that want to constrict the freedom of expression of who and what people are. And that is a danger. So maybe there needs to be a line in the sand. Let science do what it does, but politicians keep us free. Yet there's so many politicians that are doing the opposite of that.
So why aren't you a libertarian? I
And
mean,
that scares me.
I'm a libertarian. Come over here. Just
Okay.
The line is right here. Just join me over here.
I get his point.
I get what he's
I
saying.
understand his point perfectly. You know what I mean? I understand his point because let's say you say, oh, it's purely psychological, like he was saying. There are some people who's gonna advocate for, oh, it's psychological, so let's like rehabilitate them and to them to become straight. You know what I mean? So I do get his point.
Like the churches used to do.
Back in the day. So yeah, I do get his point. Yeah, and that's something that we actually got to be in fear of. But I doubt nowadays that they're gonna allow that to happen. The politicians are not gonna allow that to happen.
It is gonna cause a riffle.
Yeah,
You know
but
what I
it's
mean?
not gonna happen.
Like, it's not gonna happen world scale, but it will happen. You know what I mean?
I think the places
it's gonna
that
cause like a riffle, like a little. It's like throwing the pebble in the water. It's going to.
I think the places that is gonna happen, that's gonna happen, are places that's already like treating homosexuals like garbage, like the Middle East. You know, maybe Russia or North Korea. Those places are already treating them like trash. So I think those places is gonna happen. But in the West, I highly doubt. Even though they say, if a study came out that said it's purely psychological, it's almost possible that they're gonna rehabilitate homosexuals or transgenders. You know what I mean? It's not gonna happen.
It's more of the fear of the fighting. They know that once it comes out, there's gonna be massive like
fighting. I understand that. But let's go back to the sports thing. What do you think should happen with this whole transgender sports thing? So some people are advocating to just create another. There are men's sports, women's sports, and transgender sports.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that's the best solution because there's no way you can like regulate the you know
and fairly,
exactly fairly. Because like you're saying, hormones, like I was saying before, hormones are not the only thing that you know give men an advantage. Like I was saying, like you know, bigger lungs, wider soldiers, taller, you know.
Well, not just that, locker rooms, changing areas, like this all comes into play. And certain sports have physical contact, so like if a guy has a higher but density than a woman, then it's gonna really hurt him. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, so it's like I feel like it's easier to just create a third one just for transgenders than to, you know, try to figure out what's what. And when you were saying about the if that happened, you were saying the WNBA will exist. You know, that's the reason you mostly see men go into female sports. You know, transgender men who was men first become women go into female sports, because if the opposite happened, the woman is not gonna nothing's going to happen.
Exactly. That's why you don't really see it happen. In boxing, basketball, football, any sport.
That's why they're saying
that only should prove that there's a disadvantage. And summary, I think
it's not as simple as you think.
I think Neil deGrasse Tyson made some good points, but I think at the end of the day he was trying to he was trying to play a middle ground and not anger the other side. Yeah. But guys, it's our opinions. Don't come and be like, oh, blah, blah, blah.
These are just our thoughts and opinions.
Okay, we might be all wrong here, but that's what we think. Alright? Anything else you guys say?
Like he said, it's just what we think. It's our thoughts and opinions. We like Ben Shapiro. We even like Neil deGrasse Tyson. So it's nothing personal.
So like,
comment,
subscribe.
Bye-bye.
Till next time. I don't know why I did that. I think it's on you. Because you were like, exactly.